Hello and welcome to the Invest podcast. So pumped to be here. I'm Isaac, your co-host, along with Jack here.
Yeah.
Jack,
hello, guys. Welcome back.
We're here for another episode, and I'm pretty excited about this week. We pride ourselves on going off the cuff, and when I thought about this topic, Jack, which is prioritization, I thought, what a relevant and pertinent topic to so many people. No matter what age, you've got to prioritize. You're prioritizing at a young age, coloring books versus playing with shapes. At our age, it's something different, but we often start with what we did for the week. So the idea being you invest in yourself, others in your community. We want to give people practical things that Jack and I try in our week, and we share on that first of all. So, Jack, what's your thing of the week?
Yeah, I'll start us off with the practical things, and you got to practice what you preach, right? So my one is a bit random, and it wasn't really planned, but looking back at the week, I did realize I did do this a couple of times, and this was a good thing that I really enjoyed. So essentially, I enjoy running, or at least I enjoy the outcome and the health benefits of running. So I do it. And essentially, I would schedule in my runs, but then occasionally things would happen. You know, you have to move a meeting or something happens and you just can't make it, right? What I've been doing instead is if I have to go somewhere that's in a close distance, I'll run there, right? Instead of walking, or even I'll plan or just not even plan. I'll just go for a walk just to have a break or a mental break. But I'll always make sure I'm at least wearing some running shoes. So if I want, just for no reason, I'll break out into a sprint. Now, I feel like this is just so random, but honestly, I've been doing it inadvertently this week and it's had a massive impact. And I feel like I'm already feeling a little bit more energetic, bouncy. And when I do run, I feel a bit lighter because I'm doing it more often. So essentially, to sum up, what my thing this week has been is not so much scheduling in the runs, but just putting myself in a position where I'm more likely to do it. So if I'm getting stuff done, I won't take the car, I'll go on foot. If I'm going for a walk and I feel like, you know what, I might just go for a quick sprint for like a minute or two, just to get the blood going. That's been my approach this week. Very random, but it's been really good for me. I don't know, Isaac, I know you do some running. So what are your thoughts on that?
I love that. I really think that we're having a common theme here, which is decrease your barriers to entry. The more times you can do it, and you've said this so many times, Jack, the more times you can decrease the barrier of entry to do something, the more likely you are to do it, sustain it as a habit, and you'll see the positive outcomes. Maybe Jack won't see the result today of sprinting or tomorrow, but if he consistently does it, he's going to see health benefits. We know that sprint in terms of percentage of cardio in max effort is very different benefits and different energy systems that you'll be working to just a slow, steady state cardio. So I think it's great, Jack. And again, barriers to entry coming up again, eh?
Yeah, may as well chuck those running shoes on. You wake up, put the gym clothes on, even if you're not planning to. It's good. It just makes it easier. And just getting the blood flowing and getting your heart rate up a bit, even just for a bit of fun and for just to feel better. And it just works out well. So I've been enjoying that. But what about you, man? I'm excited to hear about what you've been doing this week.
Well, it's very funny because as we've said, we go off the cuff here, so we don't plan this. Mine is also sport related, and it's playing squash, weekly squash with some friends, some peers I have, and the social aspect's been great. But coming back to Jack's point about the sort of high intensity, blood going, what I can get done in a 40-minute game of squash, I reckon it would take me so long to achieve that same perceived exertion doing a slow, steady state jog, or going for a swim or something like that. The quick intensity sprinting the court, hitting the ball and swinging the racket hard and trying to smash the ball. It really gets that into higher intensity levels. So that's my thing of the week. Doing that for both the social reasons, but also just a great different way of doing cardio. I got a bit bored of doing sprints and running for so many years. I thought let's try it with something different. So weekly, I've kind of committed to a time and have been doing that. I'll put it over to you, Jack. What about you with the social and sort of doing things that you enjoy in a social manner, but also trying to get it done? Is there anything that you kind of do in that respect?
Yeah. Do you mean in terms of exercise specifically?
Exercise, like, working out with a friend, anything like that you do?
Yeah. No, definitely. I think there are some things like that I like to do. Like I like to sometimes go to the gym and train with friends, or if I go out for a walk with someone, I'd say, you know what, again, make sure you wear some active wear, because then in case we kick off into a bit of a sprint for the sake of getting your heart rate up and those benefits. So Yeah, it is good having people, and it just increases your accountability. Like even you're committed to a time, so you got to go. That's it. You got to make yourself available. So that's so good, and it's a great idea, and it's good to hear that you're doing that stuff. No, it's good to have that. So, mate, this week's topic, we can move on to that.
I want to add one little bit of fire.
Yeah.
If people, if you want to catch up with a friend or something, like Jack and I, we keep canceling each other. You know how it is, Jack. People get busy. They keep canceling on each other.
Yes, absolutely.
Prioritizing each other differently. That's something we're going to discuss soon.
Very nice.
Why not just say, look, why don't we go for a walk? Why don't we combine activities? Let's go for a walk or a run together, or go to the gym, and we'll have a catch up, but we're also getting, that other thing in. You're combining activities, which can actually have a positive benefit on both. You're catching up with a friend and you're doing an activity you already wanted to do. So it just helps prioritize. So yeah, back to our main topic, which is prioritization, right? So I read this stat, Jack, which got me thinking. Only 2.5% of all people, and this is by the Cleveland Clinic, 2.5% of people can multitask. Now, you can either approach that stat as I'm in the 2.5% that can effectively multitask, or you're actually in the larger, greater percentage, right? That can't. Makes sense, right? So along that vein, if we prioritize our tasks, right, and we focus on one task at a time, we won't need to multitask, right? Because there's this assumption that, all right, I'll text my friend whilst listening to my lecture, whilst listening to music in the background, like doing all these things, but only 2.5% can multitask. So actually, you've got to prioritize. I've got to watch this lecture, then I'll text my friend, then I'll have my music jam session. So question to you, Jack, what do you think when you hear that? 2.5% of people can multitask effectively. And I guess, what does prioritization mean to you?
Oh, when I hear that, I think, wow, feels so good to be in the 2.5%. I'm joking. There's probably not. No, I mean, I love the way you interpreted that. You thought, you know what? Okay, most people probably can't multitask. So what's the next best thing? Prioritization, organization, planning, the things we've spoken about many times, and many people listening, I'm assuming, would have heard those things and worked on those things before. So important, because yeah, it's a great point. You don't necessarily need to multitask if you're very good at actually prioritizing your tasks. And when you are doing them, you're really effective. So yeah, absolutely agree. It's a great way of spinning that statistic there. But yeah, I mean, what do I think when I think of prioritization? I think of just getting your shit together, like knowing, okay, what do I need to do? When do I need to do it? What is important to me? And, in a broader sense, outside of the whole productivity lens, you could also say, in life, what do you want? Like on this podcast, we always like to talk about the macro, because investing, as just by nature, is for the long term, right? So even last week we were speaking about longevity. So when I think of prioritization over the macro over your life, is like, where do you want to go? Who do you want to be? And how can you prioritize your life in a way that will get you there? So yeah, prioritizing just everything in your life, which in order to make it compliant with your goals, is important too. But Isaac, I mean, for you, because we talk about practical things here, like what is the most practical way you can figure out how to prioritize your life?
Yeah, and this is an active process. This is something that you have to cultivate over time. And prioritization is basically a hierarchical set, right? It's a hierarchy that you're saying, these are what's most important to me, and in this order, perhaps. And those things can change, right? It's seasonal. Things might be important now that might not be important later. And the way to do that is what I've actually tried to do is write out all the things that I've got going on, all the projects that I'm involved at, all the things I've got going on, whether that be, from weekly commitments such as playing squash, or, a meeting with Jack that I might have, or a study commitment I've got, putting them all out and setting the priority of the things that are most urgent, sort of intermediate urgency, and then non-urgent. And from that, you can sort of really deduce what you want to prioritize. And I've actively tried to use that sort of cognitive reframing. That's a bit of a buzzword. We can discuss it another time.
Bit of CBT then.
Reframing of things is like, in my mind, I'll be doing, let's say I'm studying something that I have to get ready for tomorrow. I'm thinking in my head, well, I'm prioritizing this because I need to get it done tomorrow. That other thing I want to do because it's more interesting to me, maybe it's, having a meeting with Jack and discussing some life, philosophy of life. Well, that's not really pressing. that is a priority because I love those conversations and it's important for me socially, but I can do that later because I'm prioritizing this right now. So we always like to make it practical. So Jack, maybe you can give me some ideas of what you prioritize, what you've got to prioritize day to day, some like specific examples from your life.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, I live my life by my schedule, which I do create. But at the end of the day, when I wake up in the morning and I have my coffee and read that schedule, that dictates what I'm going to do and what I'm going to prioritize as well. So a lot of my prioritization for the day is already premeditated through my schedule. So obviously work is the first thing because those are things that I've scheduled in that I have to do. And then following on from that, it will be anything health related. So that could be, as I was talking about before, walking, running, going to the gym. Even, honestly, this is very underrated, making time to go to the supermarket or butcher or whatever to get good food. Because I feel like a lot of people eat very poorly because they simply don't have time, but for them, it's not a priority, right? So you need to actually prioritize that because then what are you going to do? You're at home. What can you make that's available? Oh, maybe there's some pasta or some chocolate or things that are not really compliant with your health goals, right? So that's the next thing. I'd say anything health or fitness related. And then, social stuff. I'm very big on that. Anything, if I need to make time to see someone or speak to someone, even on the phone or anything like that, absolutely, I'll make time for that. And then realistically, at the end of the day, like lowest priority is myself in terms of like just, watching Netflix or doing anything that's chill out time, which is needed. We need balance, but that's very low on the priority list because as you were saying, like when you're doing a task, think about, do I actually need to do this? Like Marcus Aurelius used to say, when doing any task, is this necessary? Ask yourself, is this necessary? And that will kind of help filter out the things that you need to do now or not. And that will help you not only be mindful of what you do, as in mindfulness, but also prioritize your life easier. So those are the things that I tend to do in my life. Well, what about you, man? What do you reckon is like the most important thing that you prioritize in your life?
Yeah, and I'll go maybe through my process and then what. So I firstly think it's important to externalize sometimes. Externalize your priorities. So what do I mean by that is it's a friend. Like let's say I approach Jack or I approach one of my mentors or something like that. And I go, look, I'm having issues, with time management or whatever it may be. And, I've got this project going on at the moment. I've got, my study going on at the moment. I've got work. I've got, health. And what externalizing can do is not only get you talking out loud and thinking about it, you get the accountability of telling someone else, but also they might be able to offer, look, Isaac, it sounds that actually it's more pressing right now if you study for your exams than it is maybe to start a new sport. Maybe I want to start, playing mixed netball or something, right? The prioritization might be different at that time and you can externalize that. So I think that's really important. And for me, I guess it comes to your purpose, broad purpose, right? So what's your why? And whether it's to serve others, maybe it's to, bring people together. Maybe it's to, change the world through your social platform, whatever it might be. Think about your core principle and your why, and then everything will stem from there. So for me, it's my faith, it's my study. So through medicine and studying medicine, I believe that's a really high priority. My research work, I find that really stimulating. So I prioritize that. And then work, right? Those are the really core things that, from a study day-to-day kind of thing I need to prioritize. But before I get to those, I always think, well, at the detriment to what, right? If I just prioritize those really highly all the time, then it could be at the detriment to my social, my family, those relationships I have. So to summarize, essentially, when I externalize those things, I always think I've got to put my family first, checking in on my family, seeing how they are, my relationships, really focusing on those. And then I'm able to filter in the other things, bring the other things in. And what you'll find, Jack, is that if you prioritize correctly, you'll enjoy doing those things more. So if I've had that phone call with my family or called my friend or someone that, I haven't checked in on in a while, when I do go to study or do go to work on a paper or something like that, much happier for doing it because I know that I prioritized, I did something that really made me happy. I needed to really focus on, and now I'm back doing my tasks that perhaps, more contribute towards my purpose, right? So how did you see that? I think I spoke for a bit there.
No, that was so good. I when I rewatched the podcast, I always say to myself, wow, I just don't shut up. So I'm really happy to have you talk for a while. So that makes me feel a bit better about myself and my decision. But no, that's so interesting. I feel like I kind of was a bit of a fly on a wall in your life. I was able to kind of hear a bit about how you make your decisions and how you go about things. That was so interesting to me to hear. And mate, there's no word of a lie there, because you always check up on me all the time. You give me phone calls and we do video chats and everything. And I love that. And I look forward to that. So you definitely practice what you preach, just to add some validity to that. But man, I mean, I completely agree with the way that you've kind of laid it out. And you said that, you know what, if I actually prioritize these things first, the other stuff, which may not have been as enjoyable otherwise, now all of a sudden bring you so much joy because you know it fits in that spot. You've prioritized, and you're doing this thing because you need to in this moment. And I say in this moment because I feel like prioritization is so closely related to mindfulness. And I briefly mentioned that before with the Aurelius quote, but man, like you always used to say to me that when you're having lunch or dinner or breakfast, like a meal, to not be on your phone responding to things or not as in, you can't use your phone to check the news or whatever, more in terms of like organizing stuff. Like for our work, we both have to organize sessions and clients and a lot of those administrative tasks. So avoiding those. And I think that goes into a different kind of prioritization where it's not just like your day or what you do. It's in the present moment, what is your priority? Is your priority to enjoy that meal, for example, because I was talking about that now, or is it to actually do the other things, like, for example, organize your clients for the day? Would you not rather have this enjoyment of the meal and this mindfulness as a priority, like your mental health is a massive priority, having this moment, and then doing your work after that? So I think that's an interesting way to look at it, where you look at prioritization simply in the present moment. So what are your thoughts on that, Isaac? Do you think there's any value to actually viewing prioritization through that lens?
Absolutely. It is malleable and right. And of course, sometimes you do want to stick to the hierarchy, right? But often, and you said it before, Jack, with that idea of, the prioritization of Netflix being low, maybe that comes up some days. Maybe a priority to you is to recharge and reset that day. And I think that's where externalization helps. Like, I don't think many people would be too annoyed if you text them and be like, hey, having a bit of a challenging day. What do you think I should do here? I've got some work to do. Do you think I should push through? Or do you think I should, have a break and watch something on Netflix, right? And I think that externalization and having that conversation with anyone, can really help, because maybe you'll think, oh, actually, maybe if I just watch something for 10 minutes or something, I'll bounce back, or I'll just relax for that 10, 15 minutes, then I'll go back into my work. Or maybe it's actually today, bit of a write-off. I just need to really unwind, relax, get back to me, and then I can, prioritize doing work tomorrow higher, right? So I think that's how I see it, Jack. And you're right, it does change, and it is malleable, but always try and think external to yourself, like, looking in, what do you think? Am I just making an excuse that, actually I want to prioritize Netflix today, and you prioritize it for 7 days straight, and suddenly your phone's going off, you've done no work, you've done nothing.
Hey, but at least you got through all of The Witcher, mate, in 1 week. It's a good accomplishment.
Is that your recommendation? I see. Perhaps
potentially
we could do.
Henry Cavill is, look, he's a handsome man. I'll just leave it at that. I'm not going to say more than that.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. But you finish your point. No, I'll go.
You go.
It's that's a very interesting point. That I love how you say malleable, because it does change. And I think that whole idea of, you were saying, like, looking in and externalization, man, that is self-awareness. And I think that'd be an amazing topic to discuss one day, because the whole another topic is, if you're self-aware, you know what your baseline is. You know if you actually need to take this time off, or you need to work harder. And I completely agree, because I know that the self-help community and this whole productivity grind whole idea or culture is great, but obviously it can be very toxic if you're not actually prioritizing a bit of balance. And you do need to actually say, you know what, I say as a write-off, I just want to enjoy, I want to relax, I want to not do anything too productive or whatever that may be for you, and instead relaxing and unwinding through whatever medium you want. That may not be as technically productive, but it is productive in the grand scheme, because now you get your break and you can reset, and then you can go back into it. So your priorities will definitely change if you feel like that's needed, but you will only know if you're self-aware. Obviously, you can ask others, which is great, but ultimately it's up to you. And I think we can discuss this a whole nother episode, but if you're self-aware, you'll be able to know and you can tell yourself whether you need this or not.
Absolutely. So I might summarize there, then Jack, you can hit the outro. So to summarize, we talked about things of the week, and Jack's, he's tried is wearing sneakers so that he can sort of have those intervals of sprinting when he goes for a walk or something, just to be ready, be at the helm, if you so to speak.
Absolutely.
And mine was playing squash, high intensity sport, but also a social game of squash, so that I could catch up with friends and sort of combine activities, making more positive outcome. And then we discussed prioritization and the hierarchy of things that we want to get done, understanding that sometimes those need to change and that we need to externalize and sort of have that self-awareness to see, when does my priorities need to change. So that's my summary there, Jack, and I'll leave it over to you.
Yeah, that's a great summary. That's my favorite part. It's amazing. I love the little wrap up. But yeah, thank you everyone for listening. Keep inputting your suggestions through our social media and keep up to date with those streams of content and everything. So thank you all for listening, and we'll do the next episode next week. See you guys later.